Systems of linear equations, part 6, word problems. Everyone's favorite. In recent years, word problems have become more numerous on the SAT. Some word problems will require that you create a system of equations from the information given. Sometimes you will be asked to solve the system of equations, but often you will just be asked to develop the two equations. It is essential then that you will be able to find and translate the information in the problem into the equations. And before I say this, this is where the verbal class ties into the math class. The following procedure is useful to determine the required information. Read the problem carefully, identify these potential items for each equation: the variables, the coefficients of the variables, the total. Remember that each of the two equations is in the format ax plus by is equal to c, where x and y are variables, a and b are the coefficients, and c is the total. The coefficients can be negative or positive. The coefficients can equal 1. Each equation has a total on the right side of the equation, and the total can be negative or positive. Next step, write the appropriate coefficient and total for each equation. Next step, review the problem to ensure that your equations are consistent with the information in the problem. Now let's look at the following example. Albert, Brad, and Charles are selling hamburgers and hot dogs. The hamburgers are $2.56 each, and the hot dogs are $1.75 each. Yesterday, they had 58 customers, each buying only one item, and they made $128.50. Which of the following equations will let them know how many hamburgers and how many hot dogs they sold, where X is the number of hamburgers and Y is the number of hot dogs? And so we're given option A, X plus Y is equal to 58, 1.75X plus 2.50Y is equal to $128.50. Second equation, and then you have this option. Third equation, unfortunately, it goes over to the next page. There we go. Yes, I'll save that. So you have this equation for option C, and you have this equation for with this set of equations for option D. So let's use the steps outlined above. Step 1, read the problem carefully, identify the important items for each equation, the variables. Variables of the number of hamburgers. So we've decided that the number of hamburgers is X and the number of hot dogs is Y. The coefficients of the variables. In one equation, the coefficients of X is 1 and the coefficient of Y is 1. In the other equation, the coefficient of X is $2.50 and the coefficient of Y is $1.75. And the total for one equation is 58. That's the number of hamburgers and hot dogs sold. And the total for the other equation is $128.50. That's the profit. So then you write the appropriate coefficients for each of the equations. So the first one we agree with. Number of hamburgers plus number of hot dogs equals 58 total. And then $2.50 for the hamburgers and $1.75 for the hot dogs is going to total $128.50. Review the problem to ensure, this is step 3, review the problem to ensure that your equations are consistent with the information in the problem. The equations are consistent. And if you solve it, the answer is C. So here's another example. Last week, Charles worked 11 more hours than Sam. If they worked a combined total of 59 hours, which system of equations could be used to determine the number of hours Sam worked last week? So let's use the steps above. Step one, read the problem carefully, identify the important items for each equation. The variables. The variables are the number of hours Charles worked and the number of hours Sam worked. X is going to be the number of hours for Charles, and Y is going to be the number of hours for Sam. The coefficients of the variables. In one equation, the coefficient of X is 1, the coefficient of Y is 1, and then the other equation, the coefficient of X is 1, and the coefficient of Y is 1. The total for one equation is 11, and the total for the other equation is 59. So what you write in the second step is you will write x minus y is equal to 11, and x plus y is equal to 59. So let's look at what it just said. We read the problem carefully. Last week, Charles worked 11 more hours than Sam. Charles worked 11 more hours than Sam. They both worked a total of 59 hours. And then you review the problem to ensure that your equations are consistent with the information in the problem, and the equations are therefore consistent. And I'll stop sharing here. And I'll share the homework. So, last set of homework problems. Delta State University has separate tuition rates for in-state students and out-of-state students. For in-state students are charged $421 per semester, and out-of-state students are charged $879 per semester. The university's junior class of 1,980 students paid a total of $1,170,210 in tuition fees for the most recent semester. Which of the following systems of equations represent the number of in-state X and out-of-state Y juniors and the amount of tuition fees the two groups paid? And so you have this set of equations for A, this set of equations for B, this set of equations for C, and this set of equations for D. So you have to figure out which one makes sense. An online bookstore sells novels and magazines. Each novel sells for $4 and each magazine sells for $1. If Jackie purchased a total of 11 novels and magazines that have a combined selling price of $20, how many novels did she purchase? And the last one, a bead shop sells wooden beads for 20 cents each and crystal beads for 50 cents each. If a jewelry artist buys 127 beads total and pays $41 for each, and pays $41 for them, how much more did she spend on crystal beads than wooden beads? And don't worry, most likely our last lecture will be going over all of these homework problems next Saturday. And we will go through the solutions together and hopefully understand them all. And good luck on your future SAT success. And again, next Saturday will be our last Saturday for the fall semester, and we'll be announcing to you probably before January what our spring semester will look like.